From the outset of your arrival into the Lands Between, you are directed by the Light of Grace to Stormveil Castle, to fight and overcome the first shard-bearer of the game, Godric the Grafted. But before you can reach him, before you can even enter the castle, you are met with one of the most interesting, sympathetic, and imposing characters in the game. Standing in your path is the first real boss of Elden Ring, Margit the Fell Omen. When we first come across Margit, we know next to nothing about him. He is someone who looks down on Tarnished and sees our search for the Elden Ring as contemptible, vowing to be the one to extinguish our
flame of ambition.
He stands as an obstacle to be overcome, without much more significance. But we can learn a bit more about him even this early in the game, if we acquire an item from patches. The item, Margit's Shackle, provides some background. A fetish bathed in golden magic, shackles were used to bind the accursed people called the Omen, and these ones were made to keep a particular Omen under strictest confinement. Though faint, the shackles still retain vestiges of power, enough to trap the once-bound Margit on Earth, if only for a short time. Here we have the first inkling of Margit's background as a member of the cursed race of Omen. And he is a special Omen at that, who is kept under the strictest level of imprisonment. But as for why he stands in our path, or his motive for so actively wishing to squash us, we know not. When he falls, he does not drop any item of insight, just a talisman pouch. But his fading dialogue is of interest.
I shall remember thee, tarnished, smouldering with thy meager flame. Cower in fear of the night. The hands of the fell Omen shall brook thee no quarter.
Ominous to say the least. It sounds like Margit is not done with us and may not be dead, which is something a keen player may have noticed by the overall importance his design seems to exude. He just seems too important to be simple fodder before the Godric fight. The rest of the message about the hands of the Fell Omen is likely to be forgotten by a player on their first playthrough. I remember thinking how poetic the language was, and then promptly forgetting it the rest of the game. Which is fair because we don't get an actual explanation of what it means until a late game area, where an armor set reveals the so-called Hands of the Fell Omen are actually the Knight's Cavalry. Their set reads, "The Knight's Cavalry, who now wander the dim roads at night, were once led by the Fell Omen, and were deliverers of death for great warriors, knights, and champions." Here is our second insight into this special Omen. He led the menacing band of Black Knights to defeat and deliver death to great foes. The story of our simple first game boss inches deeper and deeper. As we make our way towards the capital, more of the story unravels. The sword's monument near the Outer Wall battleground grace tells the historic tale of the second defense of Leyndell. The Fell Omen stacks high the corpses of heroes, yet the Erd Tree remains unshaken. Another testament to the might and ferocity of Margit. He is once again described as defeating scores of not just random nobodies, but heroes, stacking their corpses high, all in successful defense of the Erd Tree and its capital city, Leyndell. Perhaps this is the scene we see in the opening cinematic, where Margit is seen crushing a red-haired soldier. The voluminous red locks are evocative of Radahn, and the gauntlets match. Perhaps a young Radahn took part in an attack on the capital, only to be halted by the Fell Omen. And as we, the Tarnished, make our way to the Golden City, we learn that the Fell Omen is not yet defeated. A golden Erd Tree sigil erupts at the feet of a commoner, which then transforms into Margit. He again insults us in familiar fashion. Little Tarnished, wretched flame of ambition, all that good stuff. Once defeated, he falls in a puff of golden smoke, dropping the Viridian Amber Medallion, a precious jewel which houses primordial life energy. Again, we learn little. His fight here only confirms his dedication to protecting the capital and the Erd Tree. Once we actually reach the inner city, the Omen's story really begins to unfold. The surface of the Erd Tree capital may be golden and glorious, but below it resides a sinister darkness. Under the city lies the Subterranean Shunning-Grounds, the forced residence of the Omen, the race referred to by Margit's Shackle. These beings are cursed with horns and growths, born outside of grace. So the powers that be forced them into the sewers, to suffer out of sight, out of mind. The Omen Bairn, a doll of an Omen child, tells a bit of their story. It reads, "Omen babies have all their horns excised, causing most to perish. These fetishes are made to memorialize them. It concludes with one of the child's cries. Please, don't hate me or curse me. Please. Even their weapons attest to their subjugation. Their cleaver reads, "The pattern etched upon the blade is the remnant of a deteriorating malediction or curse. Indeed, when bestowing a weapon, preparations must be made for taking it away." The Order used the Omen for their strength, but all the while kept them downtrodden and enslaved. After all, the Order also had Omen killers in its ranks, men who hunted the Omen and who wore masks carved with the image of evil spirits that haunt the Omen in their nightmares. The Order never relented their enslavement of the Omen, never giving them an ounce of hope. The Omen were, or rather are, truly tortured beings. With such a harsh existence bestowed upon their kind, it's a wonder that Margit defends the Order and its city with such passion. To learn why this is the case, we must ascend from Leyndell's subterranean sewers to its highest heights, to the entrance of the Erd Tree, where we can expect to find the Lord of Leyndell, Morgott the Grace-Given. Rising up from staircase to branch, past the visage of Godfrey and the Black Knife Assassin at the Queen's bedchamber, we enter the court of the Elden Throne, and we are greeted by a familiar voice.
Graceless, tarnished.
And at last we learn the true significance of Margit the Fell Omen, that he is no one but a secret identity of Morgott the Omen King, the Veiled Monarch, the Grace-Given. Morgott calls out the other Shardbearers, who used to have seats in this court. He names them traitors. Since the Shattering, they have waged war, and only Morgott has stayed to defend Leyndell and the Erd Tree. But in a world where Omen are cursed and Omen killers are soldiers of the Order, the King of Leyndell could never be known to be an Omen. So he fought as Margit the Fell, while secretly acting as Leyndell's ruler, as a mysterious figure seen by no one. That is why Gideon Ofnir calls him the Veiled Monarch. He never lets himself be seen in the role of king. He is only ever visible when acting in the role of Margit the Omen. Morgott stands in our way, believing Tarnished to be unable to repair the Elden Ring. In this fight, we see his true power. He shatters the covering of his sword, which is actually his accursed Omen blood, that he had previously recanted. It's his true power that he has been holding back. And during the second phase of the fight, he rebukes us for forcing him to use the rest of his curse's power, which fills the arena and stains the circle of golden thrones.
Thy part in this shall not be forgiven.
Nowhere better than here do we see the conflicting personal identity of Morgott. He is a son of Queen Marika and Godfrey, first Elden Lord, but he was born as an Omen. His royal blood could not overrule his cursed birth, and like all other Omen, he was locked away. But unlike the others, he was still royalty after all, and a demigod at that. His horns were not removed. We learn about his peculiar case from the Regal Omen Baron, which reads, "Omen babies born of royalty do not have their horns excised, but instead are kept underground, unbeknownst to anyone, imprisoned for eternity. They are not mutilated, just locked away forever. Maybe retaining the horns gives them some access to latent power found in the Omen blood." We know Morgott was locked away from what we read in his shackle, which does work against him in this fight too. But at some point he was able to break free from his imprisonment, and amazingly did not enact revenge on those that sealed him away. Instead, he fought for the Order, and became the most ardent defender of those that would have kept him chained in a dungeon. Through his many defenses of the Erd Tree and its Order, Morgott earned the title Grace-Given. Despite being born without grace, he earned worthiness in the eyes of the Golden Order. And as we defeat Morgott, we realize yet another layer of his selfless action. Morgott's dying breaths reveal that he fought and defended the Erd Tree even with no hope in sight.
Tarnished, thou art but a fool. The Erd Tree wards off all who deign approach. We are all forsaken. None may claim the title of Elden Lord. Thy deeds shall be met with failure, just as I.
Morgott knows no way to fix things, to repair what is broken, to correct the shattering. We as Tarnished may go on to burn the Erd Tree to remove its thorns and access its interior, but Morgott either did not know that this was possible, or could never bring himself to commit such a cardinal sin, committed to the Order as he was. Despite believing he had failed, he still fought on, and defended the Erd Tree to his dying breath. And many times over, Morgott proved his worth. As Margit the Fell, he defeated scores of heroes, and led the Knight's cavalry in defense of the Order. He intercepted the Tarnished at Stormville, and, before us at least, prevented their meeting with Godric, at once both protecting Godric's Great Rune from being taken, and preventing Godric from growing stronger by grafting more Tarnished. He defended Leyndell ceaselessly, earning grace despite his cursed birth. His rune attests to this fact, reading, "This Great Rune is the anchor ring that houses the base," and proves two things: that the Omen King was born of the golden lineage, and that he was indeed the Lord of Leyndell. And even during all of this, he defended the entrance to the Three Fingers with a seal, guarding the Erd Tree and world from being burned and destroyed by the frenzied flame. Morgott could have righteously turned bitter and rebelled against the world that shunned and imprisoned him. Like his twin Mohg, he could have become infatuated with his cursed blood, and been consumed by a lust for power, wishing to wipe away this unjust world. That would have been fair for him to do. It would have been understandable. Instead, he chose to try to better the world he saw. He became defender of what he viewed as the source of life in the lands between. In the end, he could not fix the broken world, nor did he right the injustice that plagued the land and the people of his blood. Perhaps the path he took was destined never to offer him these opportunities to actually better the land. But he found something to fight for, and he committed himself fully to it. While the other demigods fought each other and marred the lands between, Morgott stood steadfast in his protection. Maybe if more stood with him, a better outcome could have been found. But that was not the case. From a prison sewer to Lord of Leyndell, Morgott rose. He was not given justice, he was not given love. Instead, hardship was his only birthright. But even then, he still found a way. A forlorn path to call his. In the end, his remembrance tells his story. Though born one of the graceless Omen, Morgott took it upon himself to become the Erd Tree's protector. He loved not in return, for he was never loved. But nevertheless, love it he did. There is more to discuss of the Omen, the Dung Eater, the Age of Despair ending, and of course Morgott's interesting twin, Mohg, Lord of Blood. If you want to see more of this lore explored, consider subscribing to the channel. It lets me know that people want to see more, and it will keep you abreast with my newest uploads. With that, I hope you enjoyed, and feel free to leave a comment about what you thought of Morgott's story. Thanks for watching, bye.